The Aeolian Islands are a group of small volcanic islands off the northeast coast of Sicily, reached by hydrofoil from the port of Milazzo on Sicily. In this view from the southernmost island, Vulcano, you can see all the others we went to. We stayed on Lipari and did trips to Vulcano, Salina, Panarea and Stromboli. Vulcano, Salina and Lipari are all close together. Stromboli is about 30 miles away. With several modes and changes of transport, it took us 12 hours to get from home to Lipari. We stayed to the south of the main town, also called Lipari, in this white hotel. Although rather unattractive, it was very pleasant. It's a lovely town with very narrow streets. The town centre is situated between two harbours. This small harbour is used by the tour boats. The little church contains these wonderful models of the town. Apparently the artist originally made a nativity scene, and it was so well liked that they kept it and he was asked to expand it. The original fortified town sits above the more modern town centre and has a cathedral and various old buildings and ruins. The cathedral looks nothing from the outside, but the interior is lovely and the ceiling magnificent. One day we did a walk taking us high up into the hills above the town, and then south to where we had great views over the island, with Vulcano in the background. The weather was mostly dry, sunny and hot, but we had very heavy rain one lunchtime, after which some of the roads became torrents of water draining into the sea. To see the parts of the island too far to walk to, we hired a car one day. The island was inhabited in the Stone Age, primarily because of this particular type of black rock, obsidian, which was valued for making cutting edges and arrowheads. Over the past couple of centuries, the island's main industry was pumice. The enormous pumice quarry is a rather unsightly backdrop to this beach on the north coast. While trying to turn round in someone's driveway on a very narrow track in the middle of nowhere, our hire car broke down and wouldn't go into reverse. Thank heavens for mobile phones. Within an hour we had a replacement car and continued onto this observatory at the southernmost point on Lipari Island, overlooking the neighbouring island of Vulcano. Vulcano last erupted in the 1880s, but is still continually emitting sulphurous fumes from one area of the crater. We took a hydrofoil across to Vulcano one day and walked up to the crater. It was a reasonably steep walk, but we reached the bottom edge of the crater in about 45 minutes. The views from the rim of the crater are amazing. It's quite large and we spent an hour strolling right around it. From the highest point on the crater rim, you get magnificent views over all the other islands. The sulphurous fumes were quite unpleasant. I got caught in them at one point when the wind changed, and discovered later that the metal on my watch had become badly tarnished. We were pleasantly surprised how few other people were up there. This loose stony zigzag track was a little tricky to descend, but overall we got back down to sea level in about half the time it had taken us to climb up. The other tourist attraction on Vulcano Island is this mud bath. We weren't tempted. We visited Panarea en route to Stromboli on an organised tour excursion. There was an opportunity to swim in this very scenic bay at the south of the island. After which we had an hour to look around the small town. Panarea is a popular holiday spot for wealthy Italians. Berlusconi has a villa here. From Panarea we continued north to Stromboli. We had a couple of hours to look around the small town and get something to eat, before getting the boat around to the far side of the island as the sun was setting, to hopefully see some volcanic activity. Stromboli is the only continuously active volcano in Europe. During daylight hours, the only evidence of this activity is a bit of smoke, but after dark, the molten lava becomes visible. I find it impossible to get steady shots from a rocking boat, but it was a very impressive sight, particularly this larger eruption that resulted in molten lava flowing down the side of the volcano. At that point I decided I wanted a closer look. The following day I was back, but this time walking up to the summit of the volcano. We set off at 4 p.m. for a 3-hour steady climb from sea level to 3,000 feet. Margaret didn't like the idea of walking uphill for 3 hours, so stayed in Lipari. Various craters have formed over the centuries. The craters that are currently active are a few hundred feet below the summit, so when we arrived at the top we were looking down on them. We spent just under an hour at the top, watching the action as the sun went down and it became progressively darker. To begin with, all we could see was lots of smoke, with occasional much larger eruptions causing billowing columns of cloud. We had a lovely sunset to watch, and as it got darker, we could start to see glowing red lumps of lava being thrown up into the air. It was difficult to know what to point the camera at. Just when I was concentrating on these fireworks, a much larger eruption started just below. At one point it seemed to start raining, but it was actually a shower of volcanic ash. I wasn't able to record the sound because of the wind noise, but you could hear the eruptions all the time. It sounded like deep popping noises every few seconds. While we carry on watching some of the action, I'll tell you a bit more about the holiday. We booked it as a package, and there was a group of 30 of us, accompanied by a guide, Tullio. There were optional tours each day, but Margaret and I mostly did our own thing. The only organised tours we did were the boat trip to Panarea and Stromboli, and this walk up Stromboli. Tullio, our guide, was excellent. He was always available and ready to help, even when we weren't wanting to go on his tours. Our hotel was in a good location with very friendly staff, and it worked well having a group to chat with over our evening meals about what we had been up to each day. Finally it was time to leave, so we put on our head torches and descended, via a different route through deep volcanic ash. rather like walking down a sand dune. The final island we visited, Salina, is much less touristy and has a lot of agricultural land. Everywhere away from the coast was so steep that we couldn't do much walking, and instead got the bus between the few sleepy villages on the island. We had a nice relaxing day at the end of what had been a wonderful week, with great weather and fantastic and varied scenery.